Hello, hello. I got some rosé since it's such a pretty day. Hey, hey. It's Tuesday, right? I have such a hard time keeping up with the days. So it is officially 5 o'clock. My name is Suzannah Davidson. I live in Fayetteville. I do hair and I do home stuff. I also have a vintage shop called Duell, and I just kind of mix it all together and make it work. My husband and I bought our house about, oh my gosh, I think it's been like 6 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. And so really ever since we bought our house, I've been just completely immersed in all things home. I love doing DIY projects. I like to see if I can do things myself. And just figure out ways to really make a home a home. So really one of those things that makes something feel homey and cozy to me are plants and flowers and greenery and things that are alive and that you can kind of take care of and tend to. So I thought that I would talk to you guys about how to put together a really awesome container garden, and then just kind of talk to you about how to make a patio just the best you can possibly make it, even if you're in a small space or on a tight budget. There's ways that you can really make a home feel like a home, even if you're maybe in a rental or something like that. So let's get started. And as I'm walking you through all this, feel free to ask questions. I'll try to answer everything to my knowledge. I'm not a plant expert or master gardener, just want to throw that out there. But since I've been doing it all by myself for a few years at our house, I figured out a few things. So if you want to maybe grab a pen and paper or like something you can take notes on if you're really interested in hearing what I have, you can write down the exact like flowers and stuff that I have. So that might be helpful. Also grab a drink because it's 5 o'clock and it's happy hour. Hi, Christy. Okay, so first things first, you're gonna need a pot of some kind. Obviously you wanna make sure your pot is gonna be large enough for whatever it is you're wanting to put in it. You're gonna need some potting soil. So you can get that from any of the hardware stores, local places, wherever. And then you're gonna need your flowers. So one of the best rules of thumb to go by, does the pot need to have drainage holes? Yes. For outdoor pots, I would say most of them, yes. You can put large rocks in the bottom of them. If you don't have a pot that has, got paused there for a second, I think it's back. So you can put large rocks in the bottom of it to help drainage. Another thing you can do is if your pot doesn't have holes in it, you can drill holes in the bottom of it and put a saucer underneath it. And you can get plastic ones from Lowe's. They have those of all sizes, just clear plastic ones. That's usually what I end up doing because I like the containers I usually end up picking out are ones that don't have holes in them. Indoor ones you can typically get away with putting rocks in the bottom of them. I learned that from Cindy at Zuzu's. For like succulents and stuff, it doesn't necessarily have to have drainage holes. For bigger outdoor pots, I would say though, yes, I would figure out a way to let the water drain out. Okay, so one of the best rules of thumbs to go by is a thriller, a filler, and a spiller if you're going to do a larger pot. So basically, you know, it kind of speaks for itself, but a thriller is going to be something that's really tall, something that's maybe got some color to it, something that's going to be more vertical. A filler is kind of what it sounds like. It's going to maybe be more full and fill the pot. And then a spiller is going to be something that maybe hangs over the side of the pot that gives it some interest, you know, something to look at, so it's not just all flat. So that's something that I've always heard. I don't know where I first heard that, but I've heard of it for forever. And the few people I've talked to just today and yesterday, I've talked to several people who have never heard of a thriller, filler, and a spiller. So I feel like that's a pretty good rule of thumb. So for my thriller, I picked an ornamental grass. So you can pick something that maybe has more color to it or something that's going to bloom. Since this is going in my outdoor space right out here, I wanted it to be maybe a little more tropical looking. So I went with something that was just more of an ornamental grass. And all of these flowers that I'm about to show you, I got from Westwood Gardens in Fayetteville. So this is, well, it just says spikes, but it's an ornamental grass. So you can go to that section and find that there. And then, so that is my thriller. Again, you can use something that's maybe got some more color to it or something, if that's what you want to do. For my fillers, I found these. They're super, super cool. They're called Crazy Tunia Black Mamba. So they're a form of a petunia. But they look like velvet. They're really, really cool. So they're just these black silky flowers. So I got 2 of those. And then in addition to that being a filler, I also grabbed a coleus. So these are really pretty. They come in lots of different colors. They fill out really nicely, and it'll get quite a bit larger. And then for my filler, I know, isn't that cool? I saw them and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to have those. I don't know if you can see them in the video, but in person, it looks like it's like a velvet dress. It's really cool. And then for my spiller, I got a, let's see if I can pronounce this. Let's see, the side of it says licorice, and then there's a more technical term for it, so I'm not really sure how to pronounce that. But again, if you go into a nursery, they will have sections. This one was in a section that specifically said it was full of spillers. So something that's gonna kind of like, Creeping Jenny is another one that's really nice. It kind of falls over and hangs. You could do a form of ivy that's really nice too. So something that's just gonna kind of lay over. Before you pick your flowers out, something to be mindful of is going to be what type of sun the flower's like, and you also probably want to think about if it's going to be an annual or a perennial. So I specifically picked out my flowers based off of where I was putting them, and where they're going to be mostly sun, but some part sun and shade. So you have to make sure that whatever you're picking out is going to be, in line with that. If you've got them on a shade that sees no sun, you're going to want to pick out flowers that, are shade loving. And if it's going to be in full sun, you want to make sure you get something that is full sun. So, great question, Hannah. The difference between a perennial and an annual. So an annual you can think of as yearly. No, I was going to answer that question. You can think of as yearly. So it's it's there for the year and she's gone. A perennial is one that's going to return year after year. Yes. Yeah, Jera. Yep, you're right. So yeah, annuals, that's a good way to remember. It's just annually it's there and then it's gone, and a perennial comes back year after year. So, there's a lot of different flowers and plants that are perennials, but they have to be brought inside during the winter months. So if you had room for that or space for that, you could definitely do that. Keep them in the pot and just bring them inside and take care of them until spring rolls back around and you can put them back out and get them ready. So I went with, I think all of these are annuals. It does get a little confusing when you're in there trying to search for what shade or sunflowers, perennials, annuals, and with the thriller, filler, and spiller. So those are probably the 3 main things I would look for when you're going shopping. So it does take some time. I mean, when I went, I was in there for probably a good 30 to 45 minutes walking around, picking stuff out, trying to figure out, what was going to work with what I needed. So great question for Hannah. I think you asked that. So the first thing I'm going to do is fill my pot up, and I got this at Lowe's today. I like it because it looks like it's maybe heavier than it is, but it's lightweight and it's plastic. So I love that. And I'm going to fill it up about 3/4 of the way full with my potting soil. You just want to make sure you give your plants room to fit in there the way that you want them, and you might have to kind of move things around a little bit too. But I went ahead and scooped out some of my potting soil. I'm going to put my gloves on here, even though my hands are already filthy. Let's see. some of the other questions we got earlier were questions about what were some of the like best combos of, you know, shade versus, I'm just gonna dump this in, versus part sun versus shade. There are so many different combos. It's really hard to answer that, especially because I don't know all of them off the top of my head. But I would suggest just figuring out what area you need it for. So if you know for sure you need a full sun or part shade or full shade, figure that out first and then go from there, because that's going to really narrow down your options. And then you can really start to figure out what you like and don't like based off of that too. Potting soil question. This may be silly, but does it matter what brand to buy? Cheap versus expensive brands? That's a great question. I've purchased all different ones. This time I went with a cheaper option just because I needed a lot of it. I think as long as you're taking care of your plants like you should be, and if you potted them correctly and they're in the right kind of light and you're watering it, I don't think that it matters too much. But what I might suggest is getting some type of a like fertilizer, so stuff you can kind of sprinkle in to help it thrive. So that might be a more budget friendly option to get a less expensive potting soil, and then maybe sprinkle in some of that fertilizer. I forget what that stuff's called. Basically like plant food, you know, comes in a little shaker. Would a front porch be more partial sun? How do you identify? So that's a really good question. I'll answer it 1 second. So something you want to do, a little tip when you're, I learned this from my brother who's a landscaper. Something you want to do is loosen up the bottom of your plant before you put it in, so it doesn't get something called, I think it's called root rot, where it basically like entangles in itself and turns into a knot and it can't grow. So you're just literally going to kind of pull it apart a little bit and loosen it up. So the question about the sun, front versus back porch. So for example, my front porch faces east, so I get morning sun on my front porch. My back porch, which is where I'm at right now, is west, so I'm getting the evening sun. So basically what I have to do is I have to put morning sun plants that can do part sun, part shade in the front, and then kind of the same for the back. I'd say I get a little bit more sun back here than I do in the front. And then on the north and south side of my house, that's going to be full sun pretty much all day. So I can do lantana, I can do things that thrive in the sun. Lavender loves the sun, so anything like that that's going to be full sun would work. Can't see what y'all are talking about. Okay, so something else when you're doing your filler and spiller, you want to think about the orientation of how you're putting them in your pot. So this one is going to be kind of like back next to a chair, kind of up against the fence. So I'm putting my thriller on the back half of the pot. So if you were doing something where that was maybe going to be more of like a centerpiece or something where people were going to see all sides of it, you'd want to put your thriller right in the middle. But I'm going to line mine up towards the back of the pot, just because I want the other stuff to kind of be filled in front of it. So where do y'all get most of your plants and flowers from around here? I love Westwood. I went there yesterday. Zuzu's Petals, I bought a hanging pot from Zuzu's today. They were having a hanging pot sale. And then Lowe's, of course, is always good. Okay, so then for my fillers, I have 2 of the petunias and then 1 of the coleus. So I'm going to put the coleus in the middle since I only have 1. And then again with your soil, you just want to make sure if I need to add a little more or scooch some away, you can do that too. Yeah, White River Nursery is really awesome. I went there for the first time a couple weeks ago, and they had a really good selection. Thanks, Mom. She said she loves the colors. I know, so I went with kind of like the burnt orange in darker tones because of where it's going. I wanted some color, but I didn't want it to be too crazy. And we have kind of the warmer toned cushions, so I did that, the warmer toned plant. So again, loosen up your soil. I'm just going to set that right next to the coleus. And then same with this one. I'm about to sweat off all my makeup, y'all. Speaking of makeup, this is probably the first time I put any on in 3 weeks. So that's fun. Okay, I'm just gonna tuck that one in a little bit. Okay, and then just kind of check and make sure it's looking how you want it to. So hopefully y'all can see that. Alrighty, and then my spiller that had the name licorice on it, so I guess that would be a name for it. Just kind of squeeze the top to get it off. They're having a hard time getting out. Squeeze it, and then loosen those little babies up down there. One of my girlfriends earlier asked me if my dogs were going to be in the video. If you know my dogs, you know the answer to that. 100% absolutely not. Because they would destroy it. Love the black and red look. Yes, I know. I think I was feeling a little frisky when I went to buy my flowers, because I normally wouldn't do a black flower, but they're just so pretty. So for those of you who maybe have just hopped on, the black ones, they're petunias, but this specific one is called the Black Mamba. I got it from Westwood Gardens, and they look like black velvet. They're really, really cool. Alrighty, so then just kind of adjust it to where you're feeling like you're liking the way that it's looking. If you need to move things around, do that. The other thing I think people kind of forget about sometimes is, you know, if you're buying plants like this, if you're planting them yourself and potting them yourself, they're going to be really small at first. You know, it's really tempting to go buy the big, beautiful, mature ones that are already ready to go, but they're so much more expensive typically, and you can't customize it. So if that's what you're looking to do, is customize it, I think that this is such a good option for that. Okay, so now that I kind of have everything where I want it, I'm gonna grab, I need some more soil in here to kind of help these guys stand up a little bit better. So hopefully you can see what's going on there. I'll move the camera just a minute. Grab some more soil. Okay, so back to the soil thing. Since I did buy a less expensive option, I'll have to update you guys and see how it does. I do think I'll buy like some of that plant food for it, just to see if that helps a little bit. Kind of keep the soil rich and full of nutrients. But yeah, I think as long as you're taking care of your stuff, does it matter what you have? This combination, will they still grow the same? So that is something to think about. That's why the rule of thumb, the thriller, filler, and spiller is a really good thing to go off of, because you know that the thriller is going to be taller, the filler is maybe going to be more mid-range, and the spiller is typically going to stay lower and kind of come over. So when you're buying flowers, they'll usually always have what length they grow to on them, or how tall they get or how wide they get. So that's something you definitely want to look at too, is to say like, okay, I'm putting these two next to each other. This one only gets a foot tall, but this one gets 2 foot tall. You know, maybe that's not what I was going for. Maybe I wanted them all be the same. So it's definitely something you want to look at. You know, when I was first buying flowers for our house, I honestly didn't read anything on the tags. I mean, I probably read a little bit, but our landscaping out front, the stuff that are perennials, the stuff that comes back every year, honestly needs to be completely redone, because there's bloom times, there's height, you know, there's width, there's all that, and I didn't look at any of that when I first started. So if you will do a little bit of research, it's really tempting to go to the store and just buy whatever looks pretty. But if you will do a little bit of research before you go, it's going to save you from buying plants every year, buying things that didn't work, buying things that didn't look like you thought they were, and then ultimately, you know, end up wasting money. So I would suggest really doing your research first before you just go and buy something. It's gonna just really help you out in the long run. So what is my favorite thriller? That's a really good question. Like I said, I'm not a master gardener, so I don't know all the names, but I did write down some for you guys, just ones that like I would recognize if I was in the store, and ones that I have also seen in the store. So one of them is going to be pretty much any ornamental grass. So you can just go to the section. Like I said, there's a section at the nursery I went to that said ornamental grasses, and I just picked out one that I thought was pretty. And then some ornamental grasses will have a bloom on them or flower or whatever. But another really awesome one that I think is kind of popular right now is elephant ear. So that one is a really good thriller. Catherine, for you asking. So that one is going to grow really big and tall and full and really pretty. And that one is, I see it on Pinterest a lot. I think it's kind of a popular one. Okay, so once we get our pot nice and full of soil, you're just going to kind of gently and lightly press that soil around your flowers just to make sure they get nice and snug in there. You want to tuck them into the soil a little bit. Okay, just kind of push it around. So pretty. So the other thing too, kind of like I was saying, how they'll get bigger and prettier. You know, right now they look a little low, not as big and full as they're gonna get. So just give it a couple days, they'll pop back up. So once we've got that there like we like it, I'm going to move the camera over so you can see it a little bit better. So there she is. I'm not even sure if, can you flip the camera on this? I don't know. Oh yeah, you can. I'm gonna do that real quick. Okay, so there's a little bit better view of it. So I've got my thriller, which is my ornamental grass. I've got my filler, which is a coleus, and I did black velvet petunias. And then I did a spiller, which had the name licorice on it, and it's gonna kind of grow and hang over. So that's this little fun pot, and I am going to set it right over there. So let me set the phone down so I don't drop anything. I'll show you guys where it's gonna go. It is so sunny out here. It's beautiful, but it's a little hot. Okay. All right, now that we got that on, I'm gonna turn the camera back around. Go in the shade, it'll be a little better. Okay, so what you wanna do after you get all of your lovely plant babies in there is give it a really good watering. So I already filled up my little watering pail here. You just wanna give it a good nice water. Gonna kind of compact everything down. Perfect. Alrighty. Hey, I am a newbie to plants. Would petunias be something I could plant and keep alive? So yes, let me go grab. I made a list of some plants that I felt like were realistic ones to keep alive, and again, ones that I see around town pretty often and regularly. So right now I have, I've got pansies, petunias, dianthus. Let me come over here. I just got a Hawaiian hula lily from Zuzu's Petals today. So I would say if you are someone that's just starting out and is worried about keeping plants alive, you don't want to kill anything, which is very understandable, I would probably go to somewhere like Lowe's that has the pre-hanging ones already, and you're typically going to see something like dianthus, pansies, or petunias in those. And yeah, I would say those are probably ones that are maybe a little bit easier to keep alive. They're not too complicated or anything like that. And typically, like I said, they're already in a pot, they're ready to go. Something with hanging plants, though, that you want to remember is they're going to dry out a lot quicker than anything you're going to plant in the ground. So, Emily, I'm talking to you. If you are going to put something in a hanging plant, you have to be committed to watering it very regularly because it's going to dry out pretty quick. I saw a question back up here about plants you need to avoid with dog drown. Yes, there's a whole list of plants. I bought foxgloves one year, and hi girl. I bought foxgloves one year, and those are really apparently poisonous to dogs. So that is something else I would look into if you are if you have animals at home that get to roam and do whatever. Definitely do some Google search before you go and see if your dog likes to chew on stuff, if it's okay if they get into it or not. Because I did have to get rid of those foxgloves because my dog was chewing my plants. So definitely something to look into. Again, with the research before you go to the nursery or the department store, wherever you're going to get your flowers. It's going to save you time, it's going to save you money, it's going to save you pain, it's going to save you throwing away plants later down the road. So yes. Some shade loving plants, we haven't talked about that very much. It are some of my favorite ones, which I'm going to make my way to the front porch to show you guys some. Hydrangeas, really like the shade. They like a little bit of morning sun, but not too much. So hydrangeas are really good. You can typically buy those ready to go in a pot at the store, or if you want to plant them in your garden bed, you can definitely do that too. Yeah, hydrangeas are awesome. I planted some. I have some in my flower beds, and I planted them when we first bought our house, and they're still there, doing great. They haven't bloomed yet, otherwise I would show them to you. Another really super easy, simple shade-loving plant is a impatient. So I'll show you. I have a couple of those. So they are so pretty. They get so big. If you take care of them, they like to be watered. I've got another little guy over there. But they like to be watered. They like to be in the shade. You can usually get them in all different colors. I went with purple tones on my front porch this year. But they're really beautiful in any color, really. How often do you water hydrangeas? Christy asked. It depends. If they're in a pot, you probably want to keep their soil really, really moisturized and wet. Because again, potted plants will dry out faster than plants that are in the ground. Plants that are in the ground, really, mine don't need a ton of extra loving because we get so much rain here typically. I will go in, and on a really hot summer day, if we haven't had rain in a while, you definitely want to put some water on them, bring them back to life a little bit for sure. And then the one I got from Zuzu's today is a Hawaiian hula lily. Yours died in a pot last year. Yeah, that's probably why. They probably got too dried out. If it's really hot out, also if they're in the sun, they don't like the sun. So does your front porch get sun, Christy? If it does, that might have been what happened. Or wait, you said hydrangeas. Yeah, they like a little bit of morning sun, but not a lot. Okay, I was gonna show y'all, yeah, it probably just got too dry and too hot. Okay, and then the hula lily I got today, I thought when I saw it, I guess I thought it was a pansy maybe, but anyways, it is so pretty. Got this beautiful thing today. Yeah, so that's something to think about too. If you have plants that aren't doing well, it might just be where they're planted. So I would suggest moving them to somewhere where, try it in a different spot that gets, you know, different kind of sun, because it could just be that it's getting way too much sun on it. So come here, Addie. Okay, so then to wrap it up, I'm just going to give you guys a little quick scan of my patio and just kind of give you like the 3 main things that I like to have on a patio before I sweat through all this makeup. Let's see, makes me want to have a social distancing really well. I know, I thought the same thing. I was like, man, Hawaii sounds nice right about now. Okay, so I would say probably one of the questions from earlier was, what are the must-haves for a porch or a small space or something? So I would suggest thinking about the ambiance, everything's leaving me. The ambiance, the cushions and seating, things like that, and then this is why I write things down. Oh, comfort. That's what I was looking for. Comfort. And then plants. So like greenery, flowers, and things like that. So I guess if you're someone who remembers things based off of, you know, other words or things like that, you could think of it as like your APCs instead of ABCs. So you could say ambiance, plants, and comfort. So that's kind of what I tried to round up to make it easy to remember. So ambiance can be in the form of string lights. It can be battery operated candles. It can be citronella candles. It can be tiki torches, things that are going to keep the bugs away. And then of course your plants, you know, everything we just talked about, APCs, I know. See, I don't know what kind of learner that is, but I have to relate things to something else to remember it. So APCs, ambiance, plants, and comfort. And yeah, so ambiance, again, it can be any of those things. I was going to show you guys, we found some string lights at Sam's Club, Fayetteville, and they are the industrial strength ones. Industrial strength, you know what I mean. Industrial lights, and I want to say they were only like $30, and they used to be $50. A couple years ago we bought some and they were $50. So yes, I'm a visual learner, Mom. So some of those are awesome. I typically would suggest buying the more industrial strength string lights because I've bought the other kind before and they just don't hold up. The second they hit the ground, usually they shatter or break. So yes, keeping the bugs away. You can buy citronella plants too. That was something else I wanted to tell you guys. I don't know if anyone knew that, but you can buy citronella plants, and they're awesome. We had one on our porch at our cabin last year, and I think it maybe got a little bit of sun, but not very much, and that thing lasted all season long. I do think typically though citronella plants do like the sun, but I think they're part sun, part shade. And then what I've figured out I like the best, you know, in terms of tiki torch lantern things, are the ones that you fill up with actual fluid into a container. So I get that from Lowe's. I have one right now going. I'll show you in just a second. Those seem like they work the best. And then also the little tins too that have the candles inside of them already. Those work really well also. So those are all good options for your ambiance, your A. How many citronellas would you need in a backyard? I would say based off of the big torch ones, I think they give you like 3 to 4 feet range. And I think that it tells you on the packaging how much of a range it actually gives you. So like for this little, our patio area right here, I usually have one here. I've usually got one there, and then we've got the fire pit typically going too. So that's, about 3 to 4 feet in between each one. And then I also forgot fire pit for ambiance too. So if you have a really small space, that was something someone asked about. If you're in a tight space, you can't have a full-on fire pit. There are so many options now for tabletop gas fire pits, which are really cool. So they're going to be just those little, they've got like the rocks inside of them, and you just light them and they give off those nice flames, and they don't have any of the, smoky fire smell like a actual real fire pit does, which I don't really mind. If I'm like gonna commit to a fire pit, I know I'm about to have like a fire pit smell on me, so I don't actually hate it. And I will say, Matt and I bought this fire pit from Lowe's a few weeks ago, and we have used it so much. We were putting off buying one because we wanted to get a really big propane one, and finally I was just like, you know what, let's get the $70 one and make sure we're actually going to use this sucker before we spend that much money on it. And I am so glad we did. We have used it so much, and I haven't even missed wanting to get the other one. So yeah, fire pit for ambiance. Preferred place to get patio furniture. I feel like that question is so much based on budget, and kind of what you're looking for. I would say like middle of the road. Target has awesome, trendy, affordable patio furniture. Lowe's usually has a pretty good selection, but maybe not quite as like trendy as what Target would be. And then Wayfair, we have gotten our whole set. I'll show you guys. We got our whole set off of Wayfair, and it was that little love seat, that table, and then the 2 chairs, and it came with the white cushions that are along the bottom of the seats. So those are probably the top places I would suggest. Let's see if there's another question up here. Yeah, okay. And then comfort, plants, again, depending on what type of patio you have. Say you have an indoor patio, maybe do indoor plants. Do the succulents and the house plants and the things that don't like the sunshine but like a little bit of sun coming in through the window. And then if you've got a small space, I would suggest getting something that maybe is a little bit bolder and bigger, makes more of a statement, because you've only got a small area to play with. You might as well kind of go big or go home. So I would suggest getting maybe like a really big fern or elephant ear or something like that. That's going to be a really cool statement piece. Let's see, how do you protect your cushions from the weather? Really good question. I was going to touch on that. So basically what we try to do is we pull the cushions in, just put them under a covered space if we know that it's going to be bad weather or something. But during the months that we're using them, we leave them out usually. You can, I think it's called Scotch Guard. You can Scotch Guard outdoor cushions and pillows and stuff. So I would do that before you put them out, and then just know that they're going to get a little bit dirty. But the trick is, I used to throw away old cushions that would get gross. If I did leave them out or I didn't have them covered, they can be power washed. So if you have a power washer or someone you know has one you can borrow, you can power wash cushions, which is awesome. I found some in we have a little pool shed that I forgot were in there, and I saw them and I was like, ew, these are so gross, I'm gonna throw them away. And then I was power washing and I was like, oh my gosh, these look brand new. So I'm so glad I didn't throw them away. So that's something to know. And then, yeah, for the season, we just leave them out and then we put them in a covered area. Catherine can't wait to go plant shopping. Yeah, I know. I love it. So yeah, plants, greenery, things like that to make it feel alive. And then comfort. So kind of back to the furniture thing. If you have a really small space, that can be some floor cushions. It can be a poof. Yes, so you can, if you have furniture that you've left out, you forgot to put the the cushions up for the winter. You can power wash them. Usually, I mean, outdoor furniture is made to be pretty durable. Also, the ones that we have, the outside part comes off, it zips off, so you can actually put it in the washing machine. So a lot of them you can. But if you buy like the throw pillows for, you know, the cushions on the chairs, they can typically be power washed, which is awesome. If you don't have a power washer, also, I just remembered this, you can buy attachments for your hose, so you don't have to have an actual power washer. So that's really nice. But yeah, you can do cushions, you know, even if it's, like I said, one little chair with a big comfy cozy throw pillow or throw blanket, that's kind of all it takes. I'll show you guys our patio area one more time. So we just have 3 different seating areas. Got a nice tall plant for some height. We've got a spot people can set drinks and stuff. Nice little citronella candle. We've got, of course, the fire pit for some ambiance. I've got my little planter if you're just now getting on. We planted this earlier. And then I've got another little plant, and I'll put another citronella candle right there. And that is pretty much our little patio area. And we've got some hanging planters also right here, just to kind of bring a little bit of color to it. So we love it out here. I would definitely suggest getting an area, creating a cozy space that you can just kind of have like a little area for yourself just to get away during all of this, and just take some alone time. And it's really satisfying when you make a space like this to then sit in it and enjoy it and relax in it. This was like honestly like a 2-year project with like all the rocks and stuff that we had to do, but it has been so awesome. We come out here all the time and have a drink or do the fireplace and just sit and talk about our days together. So we love it. Where did you find the vintage cooler? My uncle gave that to me actually, but he probably got it from a flea market. So that's a fun little touch. You can typically find vintage coolers at flea markets. We have a cabin on Beaver and we have one out there too. They're just fun. They look really cool, and we use it as storage. So we put the fire pit cover in there when we're not using it, and it can be used as a table too. So anyways, that has been kind of a fun little plant overview, patio overview. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It's been really fun to see people on here and waving at people. I miss all my friends and fam and clients. Yes, and I hope I've inspired you to redo your patio. Right now is the perfect time for it. You know, all the stores have all the things you could need. You can order anything online you could possibly ever imagine. So definitely take advantage of that right now. And we would love to see what you do with your patio space. So, all right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you later. Have a good night.